Well, appreciate y'all coming out. Thought really good start to what signing period is. Um, such an unusual deal with the changes in terms of the transfer portal and the fact that this will go all the way up until the first day of classes. So excited about the high school guys, excited about the transfers. I think we still have a ways to go here as we continue to evaluate our roster, as we continue to evaluate the portal. There's still a bunch of really good high school guys that won't sign today. That period goes another 48 hours here, so we'll continue to work through Friday, and then we'll continue to work on the portal side of it as we get through starting school here on January 9th. So they've opened up another period of transfer guys visiting. They're the 5th through the 8th, really the 4th through the 8th, that midweek going into that weekend, and then we start school that following Monday. So excited about the guys, excited about the mid-year additions as we start to work through the roster, start to turn over the roster there. I think the biggest thing for us is to continue to add talent that can help us right now while still being super mindful of the guys from the high school ranks that we can develop and build the roster. So trying to attack it from the top down and then from the bottom up to try to get to a point where you've got a consistent program in terms of talent coming back year in, year out. Obviously, it's been 17 days since I got here. We've gotten our staff as we've gone. About half of them were here right away. We've got a handful of guys that were here that haven't necessarily been announced yet, that are still finishing up coaching in bowl games here over the next week and a half. From a support staff standpoint, the plan is to have basically everybody in place when we get back together as a staff on January 2nd as we prepare for that official visit weekend. The goal would be to have 95% of the staff hired there. But the reception there has been incredible. I've been really humbled by the phone calls that I made the night I got here, through working through it every day in terms of the guys that we were able to attract to come here. And like I said, been really humbled by the fact that just about every phone call I've made, the answer has been yes. And the answer has been yes for the same reasons the answer was yes for me, which is an incredible place to obviously live, incredible place to coach. The commitment from the administration, you've seen just from a facility standpoint, from a commitment to allowing us to hire the staff that we need to be successful here, and then the initiative from the outside with NIL and all of that being as good as there is in the country. So exciting time. None of us had slept a whole lot. We've worked as hard as I think we imaginably can. I think anytime you have transition and change, obviously your own roster, you're trying to handle how the reception is going to be. This day and age with the transfer portal, we've embraced in every imaginable way, but you're recruiting your own guys as well. And I'm sure there's going to be questions there as we go. But been a lot of hard conversations, been a lot of recruiting of our own players. They're curious, they're excited, and I'm excited to get everybody here January 8th. That evening we'll meet and go into the 9th with a lot of excitement. I think the embracing of the change. I think when you take over a program where the change was obviously necessary, I think it's easy to walk in and say, man, I'm here to save the day. I think for us, the approach is very much consistent in we're here to help these young men be really successful. We're here to help them reach their goals and dreams. And we've got an incredible group of men and women so far assembled to do that. So beyond excited to maybe get a little bit of rest here right around Christmas, and then hit it back going. So I think it never stops. I think our staff has done an incredible job. So I'm super grateful to them. Super grateful to a group of about 15 guys that have come back and hosted on these recruiting weekends. I think the buy-in there has been incredible. So those guys deserve a lot of credit. Best guys that sell your program are your own players. So super grateful to them. But I'll take any questions as you have them.
What has the 17 period day been like in terms of the pace at which you worked and what you're telling these guys to get them here? And does it seem like it, like you said, it never stops? Is it 17 days? It's been like day 1 to day 17. It's been continuous.
One long day. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways been one long day. I think every morning you're trying to set an expectation for what needs to get done. I think cell phones have really helped that. But you're kind of attacking each thing individually. I think twofold. One, organizing of the staff and what they're doing, keeping everybody going in the same direction there, and then obviously on the recruiting side, prioritizing where you got to be. You can only be in so many places at one time, and so prioritizing where we wanted to go. It's helped the ties in the state from our coaches, the ties in the area. Obviously, you're bringing guys from different places, so different guys were recruiting different guys. The hardest part of all of that has been the evaluation of your own roster to know your needs, to then be able to go attack those needs. So you kind of hit it from both sides, but it's been one continuous long day, and it's been really, really fun. What you're selling is twofold. One, what South Florida is and what it has been, what it can be. You're selling a community, you're selling a campus, you're selling a football program and a vision that goes with that. On the other half of it, you're selling the people. It's still a people business. Young men and their families want to know who's going to be around them. So you're selling both. I think we got a ton to sell, again, from an investment, facilities, those types of things, and investment in our staff, and then you're selling the vision of what it can and will be. I think it's easy to sell because you can just explain why you made the same choice 17 days ago. And just like I told our current team, they didn't choose me, but I did choose them. And so when you go and you tell your story about why you chose South Florida, I think sells itself in that regard.
You've obviously, offensive line is one spot that you have to rebuild with 3 guys graduating, came in with the most experience last season. Now you've got to replace 3 spots. As you attacked offensive linemen, you got a lot, between, Bowie, Malovak, a couple others. Just, how did you want to attack the offensive line in that regard, knowing that you had to rebuild, not just for next year, but down the line?
Yeah, that was an area that was really, really hard because you had guys that graduated and not a lot of other guys that have played. So that was a bunch of time spent watching practice to see, man, where are we really? That was also one where, because you didn't have a ton of experience there, you felt like you needed to get some older guys. We're not done there. That's a spot where we're going to continue to attack and go, and I don't think we're done mid-year there. We got to get some guys that have played in real college football games to ensure that we got a stable of guys there, and you really want to have 8 to 10 that you feel like can go win football games for you. So that's been one. It helped that Tyler Hudanik was here right away. It helped that we had been in the Southeast for the last 3 years in terms of knowing the area, knowing guys that potentially we were recruiting at other spots. So that one was easy in terms of knowing who you wanted to go after, really hard in terms of knowing exactly what you needed. I do know that spot, obviously incredibly critical to success of any program, but getting young guys in that you can develop within the system. We're unique in what we do on offense, and getting young guys in there to be able to build those guys up as we build the long-term progress of this program. There's not a single freshman here at that position that redshirted last year that you feel like you can build with. There literally just wasn't a number there. So replacing those young guys with really talented young guys, and we're really, really excited about the guys we got there. And then junior college portal, that's why I say we're not done there yet. Getting Deontay was really big. And then how do we go attack it through the portal? We already have. That's one spot that everybody needs in the entire country. So it's just making sure you get the right pieces. And again, young with years, I've been really, really careful there to get guys that have won, because it doesn't help you as you build down the line. You also need enough that you can protect the quarterback and run the football effectively. So there's a fine line. Like, that's a position we walked in and we said, man, we're going to take every single one that we think can help us. There's no limit on that, because you're going to have a hard time without an O-line.
The last 17 days, or at least since you got here, how much emphasis was put on getting this signing day class together?
You know what? I think I just went through this 2 years ago. And that was at a much later time. I think the biggest thing that I made an emphasis of was there's no panic, there's no ceiling on how many guys we actually needed. I didn't so much care about the numbers, because I think the numbers will continue to iron themselves out here as we go. I cared more about the quality of the player and the young man. Like, that's the hardest part when I equated it to speed dating. I've never speed dated, but what I would imagine speed dating to be, where you're going really, really fast. And I think when you're going really fast, that's when you make mistakes. And so in my own mind, as we went through the process, I tried to really, really slow it down. We brought in more guys on official visits than you normally would in a cycle, because you wanted to get around those guys and spend a bunch of time with them. And I spent just as much time calling people that were around the young man, even more so than actually talking to the young man himself, because the worst thing you could do is bring in a class of guys that are now stamped with your name on them into a locker room that's really curious about if you're going to actually do what you say you were going to do. And now these guys are all stamped with your name on it, and they're not the kind of guys that you just told the team 17 days ago that you were going to bring in here. So I've been really, really cautious about who we've gone after, because the quality of player, just as importantly, the quality of young man has been critically important. So I didn't know, like, even as of late last night, I didn't know what the actual number was going to end up being. And I have an idea. I know how many we have left in terms of spots, but again, not putting an actual number on it at the end. I think you got to continue to acquire talent, to continue to bring guys in as the roster turns over. There's some really good football players that are currently here. As the roster turns over, you continue to evaluate and evaluate and evaluate. You're evaluating your own team. You're evaluating guys out there, knowing that there's a whole nother cycle here in May that you're going to have to continue to turn it over. So I didn't go into it with any preconceived notion, didn't go into it with, man, like, we need X amount of guys. I know where we have positional needs, and I think as we continue to go, I've just been really cautious about putting a number on it, and also saying we got to get to a certain point by a certain date.
With as many moving parts exist in terms of roster management, is it difficult to feel secure at each position, to know what, really absolutely know what you've got? Is it just a continuous moving target almost as you kind of build this roster?
Yeah, I think it's just a continuous evaluation of everything that's out there, as well as your own roster. So moving target maybe is a good term for that. But I don't really think we'll have a really good idea of where we are until after spring, or at least halfway through spring. As coaches left here, as we continue to transition staff, you're trying to pick information from as many people as you can, from the video guy to our administrative assistants, to the coaches that were leaving, to the young coaches that were here, to the player, to the football ops people. Like, you're trying to get as much information as you can. I also don't so much care what somebody's opinion is on anybody. I'd like to see it myself. So we got essentially 2 days with the guys here, and then Christmas break for them. So going into January, super open-minded to see where we are. But I think until you put pads on and things get really, really hard, you're not going to know what you actually have. So that's why I say it. The best evaluation will be somewhere between middle of spring ball into the end of spring ball. And for a lot of guys, they're like super excited. Maybe guys that hadn't played a whole lot, or maybe guys that had played a whole lot, they got a fresh start. Everybody's got a fresh start. Like, I don't have too much of a preconceived notion on anybody other than what I saw on film. I think that's exciting to those guys. And again, I think when you take over a program that hadn't had a bunch of success, everybody within that locker room is watching how you're going to do everything, how you're going to handle it, how you're going to handle certain situations. So it is a continuous moving target. That's what we'll go with, moving target.
Coach, how big was it for you to, for the kids that were committed to the university, how big was it for you to keep those kids committed to the university and to yourself?
Yeah, the guys that were committed, that first day and a half was trying to figure out who actually was committed, who wasn't, and then evaluating those guys without truly knowing wholeheartedly what you actually had. So there was a little bit of like, hey, give me a second here to figure out what we actually need, and then figure out are those guys perfect fits for you or not. And going back to the same point I was making earlier, if they weren't going to be a perfect fit athletically, character-wise, academically, with some guys, then we just cut those guys loose and continue to plug along. And I think as coaching staff changes happened around the country, everybody was kind of doing that. So there was a feeling out period, especially early, up until the last 72 hours, to where guys didn't know where they were going to particularly call home, and you were sitting there waiting on some, you were sitting there hoping on some, but just continue to work and plug. That's why I say I think you're still not done in every imaginable way. But we evaluated the guys that were committed. There were some that were kind of committed, kind of not committed. I think the fact that the coaching change happened, didn't happen the week before. It had been a month. So those guys had known for a month that there was going to be something obviously change. So each one of those guys was uniquely different, and you were trying to figure out who was who and what was what. But there's a handful of those guys that I had known about already, again, just being up the road. So that part made it a little bit easier, but there was a lot of feeling out.
One of the guys in particular that had been really vocal since he committed over the summer was Toffee Fire. Just what did you see out of him in the conversations that you had with him early on?
Yeah, he was a young man we talked to the night that I got announced. Todd Orlando was familiar with him already. Will Baylor, who was here in recruiting, was familiar with him already. So I felt like that one, I had a really good feel for who the young man was. Everybody kind of said the same thing. He was the ringleader of trying to keep it all together, which I was super grateful for who he is and what he's done. Comes from a great high school program. Kid's a winner, knows how to win. We figured out early in the process that he's a fit for what we're going to do on defense. He's a fit personality-wise. Like, he's a tough, really smart, hardworking kid from a great high school program. Like, you can't have enough of those guys. So he was an easy sell to me. Then you get on the phone with him. He's got a natural energy and a hunger to go chase greatness in everything he's doing. It was a matter of meeting him, getting around him, and then he came down our first weekend. That first weekend we were here, and he was everything that was advertised in terms of the kind of young man that he is and the family he comes from. And I think for him it was like feeling us out too. And by the end of the weekend he was like, man, this is home. I've always felt like it was home. Young men, they fall in love with places too, right? In the craziness of what college football is right now, there's something to be said about it. A guy being really happy with being at a certain place, and I think for him it was more confirmation. Like, all right, these are good people. I've wanted to be at USF this whole time. It's a perfect fit.
You mentioned the high school programs that these guys come from. I mean, Fire, DeMath, a great example. You got IMG. Clearwater Academy in particular has been pushing guys out at Division I level. Cardinal Gibbons has been in state championship games. You look down, even the transfers with Lakeland, who just won a state title, Venice, who was in that title game. How important is having those guys that come from successful high school programs, that are in competition for state championships year in, year out?
Yeah, you want to recruit winners. Winners win. Losers lose. So you want to recruit winners. You want to recruit guys that are coming from successful programs because they're going to bring that into your locker room. I think it's not the end-all, be-all, but you want young guys that are coming from programs where they're winning for a reason. Talent acquisition is key to winning, but the culture within those places has got to be right for them to be winning. You want guys that are going to come add to the culture of what you're trying to do. You want guys that have leadership ability, guys that have been taught leadership ability. So strategic, yes. I think inherently you're going to feel better taking a young man from a place that you know that they just spent 4 years at. The junior college deal is the same, right? Blinn, like you're going to take kids from programs that are successful because you know they were coached on a high level. Generally weren't given anything, generally weren't promised anything, but uber competitive in how they got here. So absolutely critical.
Cool. I think the words you used in your introductory press conference was when you were talking about local kids in the portal was "come home, baby." You got 3 of them to come home. Just how did that feel to make good on your word? And then how critical is the portal in this signing class, not just on early signing day, but also in the signing period in February?
Yeah. I'm generally going to try to do what I say I'm going to do, and that's a big deal to what we've told our guys in the program, what we told our guys that we're recruiting. I think this portal part, and a huge part of why USF is an attractive job and an attractive place to be, is because everybody recruits here. The high school football in the Bay Area is incredible, but everybody recruits here. It's an easy flight into Tampa. It's an easy flight out. I did it for 15 years and convinced kids why they want to leave here. So now I just flip the script and I got to convince them why they want to stay here. So as everybody's recruiting here, it's an easy trip in. There's hundreds of players every year in a 6-county radius here that are going and playing college football at a high level. With the transfer portal, now flipping the script again and saying, come on back. And every guy's got a different situation for why they want to come back. I think as guys leave, they probably in a lot of ways realize that the sunshine, the beach, what this community is and how important sports are, home is always going to be home. I think this transfer portal part is giving guys an opportunity to A, either reinvent themselves, B, look for a different opportunity, or in some cases come home because they got to come home. Something's going on at home. And I want to be the place where they end up coming home to. So not just the Bay Area, really the state of Florida, Central Florida, just in terms of this corridor here all the way down to Fort Myers. Like, this is an easy place to get to. It's an easy place for their families to come watch games. And as we build this, I think it's going to continue to be an attractive place to come back and play, both in style of play and the fact that we're going to win at a high level. So that's really, really important. I think us continuing to invest resources into tracking guys that have left, and if they're looking for an opportunity to leave again, being a place that could potentially be a fit for them. So, again, those guys are coming from really good high school programs as well, and we're going to continue to build it through the portal. Half of it through the portal, half of it through young high school guys that we can develop. And so I'm excited that we were able to deliver on, I don't know if I made a promise, that was more of an ambition, and it's going to continue to be.
As you probably know, there's tons of recruiting experts out there who talk about the stars, and a lot of the better players in this program were overlooked and not high on the stars, and they were developed. How important is it for you to have guys that pass the eye test, that are your kind of guys, versus just star? You know, you see him, you like him, that's your guy.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think the coolest thing about this class is nobody had time to look at stars. I really don't, and every coach will stand up here and say that they really don't know what the stars were. When I tell you I have no idea what anybody's ranked or where we're ranked or any of that, I promise you I don't, because I got no idea. I think there's 2 things. One, I've recruited long enough and done this long enough that there's guys in our profession that try to win this press conference. And at times that may work, at times it may not. We're, at the end of it, evaluated on wins and losses. And so as you go out and recruit, you're looking at a bunch of different things, measurables, how the guy fits, how they can help you scheme, all those things. More than that, the kind of young man they are, and the selling point. We talked about a bunch of different things, but having a little bit of blind faith in what we're going to do here as a program. And so I have no idea what the stars were. I think every single guy that we were able to sign today fits what we're trying to do, is going to add value to our program in a big way. And then as we go here through the next 6 weeks and continue to round out the class, I don't know, I probably will have time to look at some stars next week and still not care about it, but just out of curiosity I will, and just continue to plug away at winning battles in recruiting rather than stars. But I don't know. I don't think it matters. I don't think it's ever mattered. I think if you're trying to win press conferences on signing day, you got bigger problems than anything else.
If you had to, if you had to put an identity on this class for right now, what identity would you say?
I think the identity of what we said we were going to be here as a program is what we went out and tried to find, which is tough, smart football players, kids that care about flipping a program, creating a winning culture, and I think you do that with tough, smart young men that care about football.
Any questions, Coach? Are you gonna have an offensive coordinator, or is that you?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. I think the plan right now would be that I'm going to call the plays. I think we've gotten a really, really good offensive staff. Got a bunch of guys in there that I've been with, and there's a couple of guys in there that I've been with that haven't been in the system in terms of me being the offensive coordinator. So we'll go through the spring. We're going to go through fall camp. I think our offensive staff already has gelled incredibly well. There's some guys that haven't been in my system. So we're gonna teach the system. We're gonna see how the players we've got fit the system, continue to adjust the system, and then make a decision in August if I need to be the play caller or not. Through spring, through fall camp, I see myself being the play caller in terms of being the offensive coordinator day to day, of being the voice of it. There's going to end up being 12 people in there. They're all going to be the voice of it. And we're going to see in terms of the actual play calling part where that goes. But from an organizational standpoint, I think we're in really, really good shape between I don't know who we've announced or not, but between two guys in there being able to do the day-to-day planning of scripting and installs and all that. And then we'll see. I'm totally comfortable continue to call plays. If there's somebody that's ready to do it in there that we feel good about, we'll have somebody else call the plays. But I think the calling of plays is probably as insignificant for the next 8 months as anything else. The teaching, the installation, the repetition is the most important thing right now, and then we'll figure it out.
Through, reports and what's been announced, it seems like every single position has kind of gotten, or most of the positions have kind of gotten figured out. The one that fans are asking about is special teams coordinator Daniel DePrado. What do you see as his future? Is it being retained on the staff?
Yeah, still working through that. I think every single spot has been evaluated up and down. In terms of, is it a fit, is it not? I appreciate what Daniel's done. He had a really, really hard job there for about a month. He's been a pro through the last couple of weeks and has worked his tail off as hard as anybody here. But I think as we continue to here in the next 48 hours to iron through the staffing part of it, I've been recruiting and hiring staff. I haven't actually sat down yet to really dissect all of the intricacies of it. But I think as we sit down here in the next 48 hours, we'll figure it out.
Is there anything that and again, it's 17 days, one big day, as you said, beyond the recruiting, and anything you've learned about the program or the city, or anything that you didn't know, or do you feel like this is a job I took? Is there anything you've learned, and since you feet on the ground?
Yeah.
About what you got here?
Yeah, I've learned something every minute of every day. I learned there's a Portillo's over here, which
That's a good one.
man, you talk about excitement. So I'm a Portillo's guy. I'm a food guy. So that part of it has been phenomenal. This is an incredible food city. That's exciting. People are really nice. People have been really incredibly nice to me. I'm also the only coach in the history of this place that's undefeated still. So,
Gotta milk that.
yep, I'm gonna milk it. I got 8 months on it. So people have been incredibly nice. You know what, in all seriousness, I've recruited in Tampa for 15 years. I've vacationed in Tampa for 15 years. This is everything I thought it would be in terms of what the city is. A lot of Floridians here, a lot of transplants here. I feel like I've met more people from the Northeast than when I was living in Brooklyn. So feels like home in every imaginable way. It's, I don't know, I can't say enough good things. I think it's in a lot of ways better than I thought because of who the people are within the department, our administration, our structure of how everything is here. I think you're like you walk in every morning and you're trying to do your job while still getting around and meeting people and seeing who affects us and touches us every single day. But I have gotten to eat a bunch with these official visit weekends, and you know I have not lived in the greatest food cities in America. If you look at my bio, that I am really excited to be at a place where Portillo's, among other things, I'm really excited about. So Portillo's, if they're looking for some sort of deal, I'm all in.
I don't see how they could refuse at this point.
Yeah. So used to have to go to Chicago. Now you just go to Fowler right here.
Yeah. What,
Hopefully it's Fowler. I don't know, but I'm pretty the street right here.
So your existing personnel, just a couple of questions. Gary Bohannon, Byron Brown, Gary with the experience that he's got, and Byron what he showed at the end of last year. I know you've seen these guys. What's your evaluation of the two quarterbacks, those two that you have coming back?
Yeah. So the film, you see, I've known Gary since he was in high school. So I was in to see Gary, watched him play basketball in high school, coached against Gary. So I feel like I've known him forever. He's been around here because he's rehabbing. He's in here every single day, and he pokes his head in. I've enjoyed being around him. He's a special, special human being. He's been at every recruiting function since we've been here, and then some. And so he is what a quarterback should be in terms of how he carries himself, who he is, what he's about, how he handles his business. He's going to be out this spring, still rehabbing. So that whole quarterback room, there's a bunch of young guys in there. I'm excited to see all those guys. I do think they're all really just eager to learn. The one advantage I have is they're all excited about what the offense is. So that part has been easy because they're all just eager to see what the intricacies of are. They just saw a young man from the previous place that was a transfer go do incredible things this year. So I think that you talk about selling it to those guys, that's been really, really easy. So I think they're eager to go to work, and I'm excited to see what they can do. Again, Gary not being there in the spring, now you've got some challenges there in terms of who's actually going to take the reps. Like you said, Brown, super excited about him, super excited to potentially keep adding to that room as well.
Coach, the recruiting is like nonstop, and you mentioned the next wave, right? So I feel like the next wave will be after the national championship, where kids will enter the portal again after today and whatnot. So, and offers have been sent out to kids for possibly signing in February. Will that, what's your game plan, or is there a game plan or a board or some sort to attack that next wave?
Yeah, you'd be really disappointed if I said there's no game plan, right? We're just going to go keep shooting. What'd you say, target practice?
Yeah, moving target.
Moving target. That would be really disappointing if that was the case. Got the AD sitting over here. He'd be really upset if there was no plan. So the plan is, as soon as I walk out of here, to continue to evaluate what we have going on, continue to get on the phone, and continue to work through it. So there's still a bunch of guys that are in the portal. There's going to be a handful of high school guys that don't sign today that are going to wait till February. That happens for a couple different reasons. One, coaching changes. Two, young men just have not found where they want to be. Primarily the coaching change part is what's kept a lot of guys from signing. There's other reasons why guys aren't signing either that involve a lot of circumstances. So we're going to continue to evaluate the high school piece of it. Like you said, there's going to be a handful more guys going into the portal. It's not so much the national championship game as much as these bowl games as they're finishing up. There's guys that are playing in these bowl games and then are going to make a decision on their future after the games as well. So that's happening every day. I haven't watched any bowl games yet, but I imagine there's bowl games here. We had somebody practicing here on our campus today. So, one, it's cool that we live and work at a place where people play bowl games. That's pretty cool. You talk about selling point, like that's neat. But as guys are entering, we're continuing to evaluate and see if guys fit, don't fit. Like I said, there's one more official visit weekend here coming up right before we start school. That will be huge for us because there's guys we've already got committed to coming to that weekend. There's guys that we're hoping come and don't leave for very long so they can start school on Monday the next day. So how it all goes is literally just a continuous everyday cycle. You're continuing to evaluate, you're continuing to build relationships in the hope that when you get to twofold, January 9th, and those guys are sitting in class ready to roll, and then that second signing period for the high school guys and junior college guys that potentially are May grads. So it's an everyday deal. It's never ending. You're continuing to – we do have a board. You'd ask, do we have a board? We do have a board, but I think that thing's ever flowing too. So we'll evaluate it after the day-to-day, where guys are at tomorrow, and continue to plug. There's obviously guys that we've been waiting on, holding on, waiting on a couple of phone calls as we speak to hopefully get a couple of guys that are still waiting to make a decision and rocking and rolling.
Wanted to specifically ask about the two Lakeland transfers in Dennis and Summerall. I know Will Baylor coached, I believe he coached both of them, if I'm not mistaken. Just, how excited are you to bring on, two former teammates that, played, I know Dennis didn't play a ton at OU, but Summerall played here and there in Florida. Just, how big of an impact can those two have immediately?
Yeah, I think both of those guys were promised the same thing that everybody else was promised. You're going to have an opportunity to come in and compete, just like everybody else that's here already. I think the fact that both of those guys have been somewhere, have been in a strength program, in a nutrition program, whatever each one of their reasons were, and they had their own individual reasons, and I thought both really, really valid reasons. My job at that point was to dig in and figure out what exactly either A, didn't work out where they were, or what they were actually looking for leaving. And both of them were honestly very similar. Lloyd wanted an opportunity to be close to home and wanted mom to be able to see him play, but also wanted an opportunity to go compete at a high level. He's had an up and down career. He'll take some blame. You can blame whoever you want. He's looking to take the next step and continue playing ball with the hope of playing at the National Football League. So he is super talented. He's a phenomenal young man. He's really, really hungry. He's gone through a coaching change, and all he wanted was an opportunity for somebody to believe in him. And I think he found that here. Super excited about him. Kendall, he left, realized, man, like, it ain't always what it's cracked up to be. He's got some family situations that he wanted to be close to home, and he wanted his family to see him play. And so this was a natural fit for him. The fact that Will Baylor was here in recruiting, and he's certainly helped. He's worked his tail off. And just having him be able to make introductions and and have a familiar face, I think always helps for those guys. I think anytime a guy transfers, and I feel like I've recruited transfers in junior college guys my whole life, I feel like, or my whole career, I feel like there's less nonsense that goes into that recruiting. Meaning, yeah, we got cool uniforms, great. Like, we play at a cool stadium, great. Like, I think they want to make sure they've generally gone through something bad, and that's why they're leaving, or they're at a junior college for a reason, and they are looking and grabbing onto real relationships, people that are going to be honest with them, and an opportunity to go get developed, because their time is limited. More times than not, they don't have a redshirt year, they don't have a COVID year, they don't have time to mess around. And that's, I feel like for me, when it gets to about football, relationships, development, like real things that actually matter, like that matter. Uniforms don't really matter. Stadiums don't really matter. Like, things that matter. Is my son going to get developed? Is my son going to be taken care of? Are you going to treat him fairly? Is he going to have an opportunity to play? The things that actually matter in college football, those guys care about. So super excited about both of them. Super excited about them coming from Lakeland. Have won, know what it feels like to win, and so really excited about them.
What's the status of Xavier Weaver?
Yep, Zay's on the team. Super excited about Zay.
It's good to go.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to him catching a bunch of balls here and a bunch of touchdowns.
To touch on the receiver room, you added 2 6'3" receivers today. I know you spoke about briefly on a different interview about playing on the outside. Just talk to me about the two receivers in Demetrius Carter and Singleton.
Yeah, both young guys, and both guys I think have a chance to be really, really good. They're both really, really competitive. They both got ball skills. They can both run. They're tough and they're smart, which is all good characteristics to play wide out. I think in this offense, you've got to be able to run to start, to be able to create matchups one-on-one, and you got a bunch of space to create those matchups. So both those guys are really excited about what we do. I'm really excited about them. They both happen to be big. You don't have to be big to play receiver. They both happen to be big. We're going to continue to recruit guys that of all sorts of different shapes and sizes, as long as they can run and they got ball skills. They're tough. They're smart. So both those guys fit that mold. So do the other guys.
You got a place to live?
Yeah. My office and the couch in it. No,
Where's your family going to stay?
my family's staying in Knoxville through the end of school. We got a lot of stuff going on, man. We got baseball, cheerleading, golf, a play. So a lot of critically important stuff going on that they'll finish up, and they're super excited. They've been here twice. They were here for the official visit weekend. This weekend, they're rocking all sorts of Bulls gear in Knoxville, Tennessee right now. Their buddies are all rocking Bulls gear up there. So they will be here in May full time, and they'll be back and forth a bunch here. But I don't know. I'm looking for a place to live. If somebody got the hookup on a cool house, I'll take it.
But you're the bachelor football coach for a few months?
Oh, no, sir, not a bachelor. I got the 25 people up there that want to go get dinner tonight. So
You got lots of dates, right?
we got a bunch of dates. Yeah, you ain't going to get me in trouble on this one. It's me, Todd Orlando, and Andrew Warsaw. We're organizing a dinner.
You can work at the place you want to work at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we're excited. I'm just excited about dinner.
Portillo's, right?
Not Portillo's. We're getting a nice dinner tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.